Welcome to Krishna Katha Adventure Series Part 2. Story 8. The city of Mathura is abandoned. The tapestry of Krishna's pastimes in Mathura concludes with a flourish of complexity, unfurling dramatically over 7 parts. Part A. King Jarasandha attacks Mathura again. With a heavy heart, Jarasandha began the journey back to his capital city of Magadha. Allied princes from other kingdoms met up and accompanied him. As a great fighting hero, Jarasandha was very ashamed not only of his defeat, but also because of his release. I can no longer live as the king of my people. I will reside in the forest and practice severe austerities and penances. Hearing his words of defeat, the princes advised Jarasandha, "O mighty king, do not retire. This defeat is simply due to ill luck. Your fighting was certainly heroic, and therefore do not take this small setback very seriously." Convinced of their words, Jarasandha returned to his kingdom and rallied another army to attack the Yadus and Mathura city. In fact, 16 times the king of Magadha besieged Mathura with a well-equipped army. And each and every time he met with complete defeat. Each time Jarasandha was arrested and released in an insulting manner, and each time he returned to his kingdom and gathered another army determined to defeat Krishna. Part B. A barbarian king attacks Mathura. Sometime later, while Jarasandha was gathering more soldiers and weapons to attack for the 18th time, a barbarian warrior named Kalayavana and his army arrived outside of Mathura. Kalayavana was a Yavana from that part of the world now known as Turkey. The Yavanas were not only accomplished in the use of weapons, but they were also skilled in fighting with bare hands and arms. Kalayavana was a formidable warrior, but he had never found a rival worth fighting until he heard of the Yadus. With an army of 30 million soldiers, Kalayavana now laid siege to the southern part of Mathura. When the city was thus blockaded, Krishna began to consider the situation. Jarasandha's army was due to attack again any day, and already a large Yavana army was threatening Mathura. Part C. Krishna moves the residents of Mathura to Dwarka. Krishna decided that for the welfare of the citizens, he would construct a formidable fort in another location, a location inaccessible to any attacking armies. No ordinary architect or engineer could immediately execute this task, and so Visvakrama from the heavenly planets arrived and bowed before Krishna. "My dear Lord, please may I be of service to you." Krishna replied, "Please construct an enormous fortress with a strong wall covering 96 square miles within the sea at Dwarka. Inside that fort, build a city containing all facilities for these citizens. The city will have well-planned roads, streets and lanes, and splendid parks and gardens filled with flowering plants. With extreme artistic skills, construct many tall palaces and multi-storied homes. There will also be warehouses filled with supplies for all the shops, as well as stables for fine horses and other animals. When the new city was fully constructed according to plan, Krishna, in the blink of an eye, transferred all the citizens as they slept that night. When they awoke the next morning, they were astonished to find themselves and their family members inside beautiful homes in a newly constructed city. Krishna consulted with Balaram, who then went to Dwarka to protect the citizens. Thereafter, Krishna remained in Mathura with a small army. Part D. Krishna leads the barbarian king away. Carrying no weapons and wearing a fresh lotus flower garland, Krishna walked out of the gates of Mathura to meet Kalivana. The Yavana king, who had never seen Krishna before, now saw him dressed in yellow garments, and he was extraordinarily beautiful. Passing through the assembly of soldiers, Krishna appeared like the moon in the sky, passing through surrounding clouds. He looked blissful, with a handsome face and smiling, restless eyes. Kaliyavana was astonished to see that Krishna carried no weapons, nor did he ride in a chariot. He was simply walking on foot. The king of the Yavanas had come to fight with Krishna, but because Krishna carried no weapon, Kaliyavana decided to fight hand-to-hand combat. Krishna, however, left behind all his soldiers and walked ahead without even looking at Kaliyavana. The barbarian king began to follow Krishna, trying to catch him. Running very swiftly, Kaliyavana was thinking, "Now I am nearer, I will capture Krishna with my hands." But no matter how hard he tried, he could not seize Krishna, who was leading him further and further away to a mountain. Suddenly, Krishna entered into a cave and disappeared from sight. "So now Krishna is trying to hide from me," thought Kaliyavana. He began to call out in a chastising manner, "Oh Krishna, I heard you are a great hero born in the Yadu dynasty, but I see that you are running away from fighting. You are not worthy of your good name." When Kaliyavana stepped into the cave, he saw a man lying asleep on the ground, and he thought, out of fear, Krishna is pretending to be asleep. Being eager to fight and proud of his strength, Kaliyavana strongly kicked the sleeping man. And that is another story of how Kaliyavana was killed by the warrior whom he awoke with a kick, his last kick. The evil king Kaliyavana was burnt to ashes just by the gaze of that empowered warrior. Part E. Krishna destroys an army of millions. Meanwhile, King Kaliyavana's army of 30 million soldiers were camped on the southern boundary of Mathura. They had abundant food and water, and their armory contained stockpiles of bows, javelins, swords, and battle axes. Countless horses were kept in fine condition, and war elephants, who during battle were clad in armour with spikes attached to them, were cared for by their mahouts. These elephants looked like mountains, and each one was capable of fighting hundreds of warriors. When Krishna left that mountain cave where Kaliyavana had been burnt to ashes, he travelled back to Mathura and arrived before the dead king's militia. Standing before them, resplendent in battle armour, Krishna fought with the soldiers, killing all of them, one after another. He then ordered his small army that was stationed in Mathura to collect all the booty from the dead bodies and load it onto bullock carts. Krishna's soldiers then accompanied the valuables to Dwarka city. Part F. Jarasandha arrives again. Meanwhile, Balaram arrived back at Mathura, and both he and Krishna were now the remaining occupants of that ancient Yadu capital, as all the residents were safely accommodated in the coastal city of Dwarka. Thereafter, Jarasandha arrived at the head of his enormous army and stood boldly before the gates of Mathura. Flags symbolizing his kingdom of Magadha fluttered on tall poles held by his infantrymen and on top of countless chariots. Previously, Jarasandha had attacked Mathura 17 times, and 17 times his army had been destroyed by Krishna and Balaram. However, this was the largest army the king had raised, and he was certain that this time he would be the conqueror. Expecting to see Krishna step out of the city prepared to fight, Jarasandha was surprised when he saw instead the two brothers left Mathura with no weapons in their hands and walked westward. Seeing them flee, Jarasandha laughed loudly, thinking that Krishna and Balaram were afraid of him. The king ordered his entire army to pursue the two brothers. Riding ahead of his soldiers, Jarasandha felt confident that this time he would capture and kill Krishna and Balaram. Jarasandha could not understand their exalted position. Krishna seemed to be running away, and due to this pastime, he is called Ranchor, which means one who has left the battlefield. The fact is that even without any military assistance, Krishna could have destroyed Jarasandha's entire army, just as he had previously done 17 times. Krishna is the supreme powerful, the supreme wealthy, the supreme famous, the supreme wise, the supreme beautiful, and the supreme renouncer. This is an example of Krishna's supreme opulence of renunciation. His purpose for leaving would soon be revealed. Meanwhile, no matter how fast Jarasandha or his men, riding their swift horses, chased Krishna and Balaram, they could not catch up with those brothers as they ran on their lotus-like feet. After traversing for a very long distance, Krishna and Balaram arrived at a mountain called Pavasana. This mountain was always covered with clouds, and rain fell constantly down its sides. Krishna and Balaram climbed many miles up that mountain to the peak, and then waited for Jarasandha and his army to reach the foothills. Soon, Jarasandha and his vast army arrived. The king sent expert scouts up the mountain to search the caves and forest for the brothers, but they failed to find any trace of them. Thereupon, Jarasandha decided to trap and kill Krishna and Balaram by setting fires around the mountain. Ordering his soldiers to collect firewood, they encircled the mountain and set it ablaze. As the fire quickly spread, Krishna and Balaram jumped from the peak down to the ground, a distance of 88 miles. They landed on their soft lotus feet and ran off undetected by any of Jarasandha's soldiers. The king concluded that the two brothers had been burnt to ashes, and feeling confident of this outcome, he ordered his soldiers back to the deserted city of Mathura. Declaring victory, they destroyed the palaces of the Yadu dynasty. In a jubilant mood, Jarasandha and his vast military force returned to his kingdom of Magadha. Part G. Krishna and Balaram arrive in Dwarka. Meanwhile, those two most exalted Yadus, Krishna and Balaram, travelled to their city of Dwarka, which had the ocean as a protective moat. The sound of bugles and conch shells vibrated through the air as the guards informed the citizens that Krishna and Balaram were arriving. To welcome the lords, the residents of Dwarka scattered showers of flowers across the roads and paths where Krishna and Balaram were walking. The Brahmins chanted hymns, and the people offered their respects saturated with affection to Krishna and Balaram. As Krishna passed along the road of Dwarka, his yellow garments, pearl necklaces, and garlands of flowers appeared as if a dark cloud was surrounded simultaneously by the sun, the moon, lightning, and rainbows. Thus began Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. Namaste.